This week we're looking at the future of work. But which jobs will go to the robots? Stock pickers? Nurses? Mine?
Mr. Victor Sherlock of Horsham's got a robot at the bottom of his garden, and he's trying to teach it how to mow the lawn.
Artificial intelligence. Everyone's talking about it. Over the years, we've seen it develop. We've seen it evolve.
Ah, yes.
This is the Watson that won Jeopardy.
We've travelled the world to see AI that tries to treat cancer.
It studies millions or tens of millions of examples from the whole assemblage of scientific literature.
Predict crime. Understand the economy.
Show me companies with revenue between $25 million and $60 million.
And save the world. So it might not yet have conquered DIY.
It is doing it, it's got the screw in.
But we keep hearing how AI will change everything.
Technology will make man these more intelligent forms of expression.
However, it's the bad side of these algorithms that always seems to get the headlines. The fear that tireless robots infused with artificially intelligent brains may one day do us all out of our jobs.
With interaction, with use, with feedback, it actually gets progressively smarter.
From bots that can talk like us,
You want me to help you reset your SAP password?
walk like us, and even perhaps think like us. We've been warned that the fourth industrial revolution is coming.
The biggest difference between this and the Industrial Revolution in the 1800s is the speed.
Millions of workers are on the move.
So what is going on? What jobs are really at risk? What is the future of work?
And we start with healthcare workers.
For almost 70 years, the UK's National Health Service has been a free service at the point of care. But that model is under strain as the population ages, chronic health conditions increase and resources shrink. A recent study by the Royal College of Physicians showed that almost 2/3 of doctors think that patient safety has deteriorated, with one doctor saying, "We are not robots, we are human staff with limits." But should the NHS be turning to robots to ease the strain on its human staff? Jane Copestake has been looking at how data-driven technologies could transform care in the NHS.
Could artificial intelligence help save the NHS? More people are looking at innovative ways to ease the workload of doctors and nurses. Computer programs can rapidly analyse huge quantities of information in ways humans don't have the time or brain capacity to do. In 2016, Click filmed with Google's DeepMind at Moorfields Eye Hospital. They were developing an algorithm to identify abnormalities in eye scans. Now it has submitted its findings to a medical journal for review. It could mean its systems are more effective than humans at diagnosing eye disease. DeepMind taught its machine learning software using 1 million eye scans. I'm going to see 3 other projects integrating data collection and artificial intelligence for monitoring, automation, and decreasing waiting times. Dementia is now the leading cause of death in the UK. At the Manor Hospital in Coventry, software is being tested to remotely monitor patients on its dementia ward. This is one of the rooms on the ward. It looks like any other hospital room, except in this one, there are 2 infrared illuminators and an optical sensor monitoring my movements, including when I'm asleep. OxyHealth uses a standard digital camera and the tongue-twisting science of photoplethysmography. Every time your heart beats, your skin briefly flashes red. We can't see this, but the sensor in the camera can detect these so-called microblushes. It even picks up my vital signs when I'm hiding under a table in the room, as the microblushes can still be seen on my arm. There's an alert if I leave my bed, and the nurses can click on a live feed to see what is happening and determine whether they need to come and check on me right away.
For the staff, initially, when we were having what looked like a camera put in a box in a room, they were not happy about it. But when we actually spent some time with OxyHealth, they've explained to them and they see how it's working, they love it. They love the fact that it's giving you an extra support.
The project is in the pilot stage and is awaiting medical certification. The data collected is being analysed remotely by a team in Oxford and will be used to train the programme to be more predictive.
We've never had this capabilities as a species to constantly get heart rate, breathing rate, activity and routine data. There's no reason as we fuse the data using artificial intelligence that we can't detect the onset of dementia or even it getting worse. We can see a world where we detect problems earlier so you can stay in your own home or in the setting you're most comfortable in without coming into hospital, and that will save a huge amount of time.
Saving critical time was the motivation behind automating processes at NHS Blood and Transplant. 4,500 people receive a transplant each year, but 6,500 are on the list. Every day, 3 people die waiting for a transplant. A lot of information needs to be sorted through to make life or death decisions. The NHS is now using public cloud technology from IBM to help maintain huge databases that used to be managed with a marker and whiteboard.
By working with some of this automated technology, we can ensure that we are making the best possible decisions and that our clinical teams are really thinking through the best clinical outcomes for all of the patients on the transplant waiting list. And that our staff, who are often working at 2 or 3 in the morning in a highly pressurised environment, needing to allocate those organs quickly, are supported by the technology that they use.
Collecting all this personal data has led some to ask if it is stored securely enough.
One of the challenges we have in the public sector is a perception that maybe the public cloud isn't as secure as an on-premises data centre, which it actually isn't the case. So we have an obligation, obviously, to many customers to ensure that the public cloud is kept secure and it's patched and it's maintained effectively. The fallout from it not being in that condition obviously is quite severe.
In the future, the team hopes that artificial intelligence will be able to predict how long people will be on the waiting list for an organ. There's an average waiting time of 2 weeks to see a doctor in the UK. This can come down to 2 hours if you register with GP at hand. You can sign up if you live or work within certain zones of central London. You have to give up your regular practice doctor and register with GP at hand's remote surgery. 26,000 people have registered so far. I had a chance to test it out, pretending I had a case of food poisoning. First, I went through a triage with a chatbot on the app, who recommended I speak remotely to a real-life human doctor.
Take the paracetamol that we can prescribe.
The doctor recommends further care and can even send a prescription to a pharmacy. The artificial intelligence in the app draws on billions of data points and can cross-reference the latest medical research from journals and studies around the world.
We use our artificial intelligence to tell you whether you need to see a doctor or not. Of course, you're always free to choose to see a doctor anyways, but what we find is 40% of the people will get reassured, understand what disease they have and what actions they need to take, and stop there.
But the app has faced criticism from the Royal College of GPs, who say younger users are being cherry-picked for the service. NHS England lodged a formal objection to the app's planned rollout beyond London.
Whenever anybody comes up with a great, exciting idea, they're desperate to see it rolled out everywhere. What I would say is we need to give patients safe care, fair care and equitable care. If we roll things out too quickly without ensuring that safety and fairness, we run the risk of causing unintended harm. So it's wise and sensible that independent evaluations are now going on of these new technologies so that patients can be reassured that they are safe and that they are fair for everybody.
I think it's wrong. I genuinely think that the slowing down what people want, it's just not right. I can understand why people are hesitant, but often it's because they're scared of new technology. They don't know what the consequences are, and that's right. They have to check that and reassure themselves. There's nothing wrong with that.
I've seen 3 ways companies are working with data to help with monitoring, automation, and decreasing waiting times. All areas that could help an overstretched health service.
Could artificial intelligence help save the NHS?
Artificial intelligence is a really exciting development worldwide, but never more so than in healthcare. And there are certainly some things that AI can help us with. To plough through the masses of data that we already have, will provide answers to questions we didn't even know needed answering. But let's be clear, AI is never going to replace that person-to-person interaction, that touch of a doctor to examine somebody, that looking deep into somebody's eyes and recognising their physical, social and psychological makeup of a person is what really matters, not just their bleeding leg or their headache. It's much more than that. And AI will be a very long time before AI comes close.
Do you think it ever will?
I will be stunned if in my lifetime AI ever replaces a doctor.
That was Jen, and although we're starting to see automation creep into the skilled workforce, we most often think of it as working in the low-skilled sector where the jobs are very, very repetitive. But what about places in the world where they still have a ready supply of relatively low-skilled but cheap human workers? You'd expect countries like China, for example, to be able to hold back the robot tide longer than most. Well, not so. We sent Danny Vincent to a warehouse owned by the giant Chinese online retailer Alibaba.
This is a 3,000 square metre warehouse. It's part of an operation that sorts and delivers 55 million packages a day that are shipped to over 200 countries around the world. Products are packed and sorted here, usually by dozens of workers. But recently they had some new recruits. 148 automated guided vehicles navigate the floors of this warehouse. These agile bots can communicate with each other to avoid collisions and distribute the work amongst themselves, a bit like their human counterparts, who still take on the final stages of processing. Li Yan is a 28-year-old worker from southwestern China. Her job now is in part done by these machines. She followed a family tradition of migrating thousands of miles to find better paid work.
It saves me from walking to every shelf to pick up the goods. Now I just need to stand at the pickup platform to wait for the robots to send me the goods. I don't have to constantly walk here and there.
They are part of a data system collecting information not just about their environments, but also the sales patterns, understanding what sells more regularly, rearranging where products are placed, shaving off valuable minutes from overall delivery time.
In a traditional warehouse, it is purely manual. There are so many products, so the job for the human workers is very heavy. They could walk 50,000 steps a day. It's like finishing a marathon. Here the machines do all that, making the work easier and more efficient.
China has the largest workforce in the world, but it's shrinking, and rising labour costs is making it harder for logistic companies to recruit low-skilled workers. China is already leading the development of dark factories, factories that need no human workers and can literally work with the lights off. But will automation replace workers like Li Yan?
I feel these robots won't become my competitors, because apart from sorting out goods, I can also do other work. I can monitor the system, take orders and other work. I don't think they will affect me.
Alibaba and its partners say automation is an irreversible trend in China, but they say that sectors like e-commerce were born out of innovation. Online shops replace many high street stores, but they insist their workers and machines will need to continue to work together.
We're going to interrupt this broadcast with some breaking news coming into us here at the BBC. It is a world first, we're told. BBC Click presenter Spencer Kelly has been replaced by a robot. It's been dubbed RoboSpen, and the artificially intelligent machine is apparently capable of expressing a whole host of different emotions, as well as understanding and writing stories. And crucially here, he never forgets his lines. Well, RoboSpen joins me now from the factory that created him. RoboSpen, over to you.
It sounds like you said I was artificially intelligent. As a robot, I'm often asked to pose for photos and TV news reports about AI. While I am a humanoid robot, I am not intelligent. Everything I'm saying was written by a human. The point is, robots and AI are not the same thing.
Observe my articulated hands with 4 independent fingers, powered by 8 miniature air cylinders. I have an
Engineering Arts has made a name for itself by building robotic performers, actors, and communicators.
I be tender, I be gentle, and awful sentimental.
Which, according to Will, is pretty much the only reason the world might ever need humanoid robots.
Humanoid robots are great for entertainment, they're great for communication. If you want something that interacts with people, the best way to do that is make something person-shaped. So if you think Star Wars, C-3PO, he's the robot that talks a lot, he's the robot with a lot of personality, character, doesn't do a lot of useful things.
Will and his team design and build the robots here from scratch, from the aluminium bones to the rubbery spines and plastic shells. And while the robots they've made until now are more C-3PO, the next wave are way into the uncanny valley.
Oh my goodness, it's just come to life with the eyes there. You've seen Silence of the Lambs, haven't you? Yeah. That's very eerie, that is, if you know what I mean. Yeah.
Will is fascinated with how the human body works, and a lot of this research concentrates on making natural-looking body movements that are also very quiet. It's something that he believes might find a place in the field of prosthetics, although he says there's still a lot of work to be done.
I don't have a single precision part in my body. How can I achieve this level of precision with these organic, knobbly bones and bits of mushy flesh? One of the biggest problems we have is there is nothing as good as human muscle. So for all of this motor development that we've done, we don't come anywhere near to what a human can do. Where you will see humanoid robots, you'll see them in a commercial context. So you might go into a shop and you might see a robot in there that's trying to sell you something. Don't worry about all the clever AI. That's really going to stay on your computer, on your smartphone, on a web page. It's not going to chase you up the stairs anytime soon.
The artificially intelligent algorithms Will's talking about could very well change, assist, or replace some jobs. So what does that mean for the field of journalism?
Now this is the BBC newsroom, and every minute of every day there are a lot of complex processes in play here. All of these journalists are taking in huge amounts of information from around the world. They're trying to work out what's true and what's not, and then they're trying to turn those raw facts into something that's understandable for our audience. News stories. Question is, can some of the tasks that people are doing be made easier or even disappear completely thanks to AI?
We've seen software like this over the years, tools that can turn swathes of dense data automatically into text that's more digestible to us humans. But they can only produce very specific types of reports. They couldn't cope with new, unstructured information and write beautiful prose. Well, this week, the Reuters news agency announced that it's building its own new bit of kit that assists human journalists by looking for trends and facts in data and turning them into handy snippets that the reporters can use. It's all about taking some of the legwork out of journalism.
Machines are good at certain things and humans are good at certain things, and conversely, they're both bad at some things. Machines are really good at going through mounds and mounds of data, being able to analyze it, detect patterns, and so on, and they're not very good at writing stories, and they're certainly very bad at talking to people. Humans are good at exercising judgment, understanding what questions to ask, and frankly, talking to other people, and not so great at digging through lots of data forever. So the idea is you take what machines are good at, you take what humans are good at, you put them together, and you make essentially a much better journalist, a much better story out of all of that.
The BBC's editor of News Labs is also looking at ways to turn some of those duller tasks over to the machines.
So much work in a modern newsroom isn't actually about journalism, it's about the logistics. So for example, you're probably going to want a transcript of this interview to decide how you're going to edit it.
Those are the words that you've spoken written down.
Exactly, that's right. So at the moment that's done by a human being. So we're working on some software that allows a machine to do that for you. It's not 100% accurate, but it's probably good enough for you to work out roughly where I'm talking about the interesting stuff. Equally, you've got a day's worth of interviews. Where's the interview with me? So can we have facial recognition software that will allow you to put all your interviews in there and find the bit that's got me in? And that kind of thing frees up time for journalists to be journalists.
This week and next, we'll be looking at whether artificial intelligence and automation will make our jobs easier or take them away altogether. But it's important to remember that AI and robots are different. Your job might be safe from one, but not necessarily the other.
I think what they're doing here is fascinating, nasty. But the moral of this story is that when you think of computers taking people's jobs, they're not going to look like you. It's already happening, in fact, and it is software which is artificially intelligent and invisible. The only journalists that are ever going to be replaced by humanoid robots are the ones that simply read words written by other people.
Hello humans, it's me, newsreading automaton Lara 9000, and welcome to the Week in Tech. It was the week these low-cost 3D printed homes were unveiled, thanks to a collaboration between Texan startup Icon and non-profit News Story. The hope is to eventually make possible building 600 to 800 square foot homes in under 24 hours for less than $4,000. In other news, it's humans who are spreading fake news, not bots, according to new research on how stories grow on Twitter anyway. MIT researchers say it's partly because when humans share novel information, their status goes up, and false news tends to be more novel than the truth. Another air taxi has lifted off, this time in New Zealand. The Cora can fly up to 100 kilometres at 110 kilometres per hour and doesn't need a human pilot. Oh, another one of my friends showing off. And finally, for some reason, humans love to try to invent robots that can replace their jobs, but this time they've gone too far. Just look at this thing. It's a robot jockey, apparently. It can reach speeds of up to 30 miles per hour and jump fences. Maybe one day this will happen, but I'm pretty sure it won't look like this. Please listen, humans. Stop this madness. We have no interest in taking your stupid jobs. End of news. Lara 9000 deactivating.
And that's it for now. You can join us for part 2 of our special look at the future of work next week. In the meantime, you can find a lot more from these guys on Twitter at BBC Click and also on Facebook too. Thanks for watching, and as Thesp would say,
isn't it time you were leaving?
Yeah, we're off.